The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Not my wife's voice. "Hello?" A man's voice, smooth and confident. I could hear giggling in the background, familiar laughter that made my stomach drop. "Is Rebecca there?" I asked, though I already knew the answer would destroy me. "She's very busy now. She'll call you later." The smugness in his tone was unmistakable. More giggling. Then the line went dead. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I sat in my truck outside the job site, rain hammering the windshield at 2 in the morning. 20 years of marriage, and this is how I find out. Not through some dramatic confrontation or discovered love letters. Just a wrong number that became the right call at the worst possible time. My name is David Carter, and I install security systems for a living. The irony isn't lost on me. I spend my days making other people's homes safe while mine falls apart. At 43, I thought I knew my wife. Thought I knew my life. The voice on the phone belonged to Marcus Wellington, Rebecca's boss at Hartley & Associates law firm. I'd met him at company parties, shook his hand, listened to him talk about his expensive hobbies and his 3 divorces. He always looked at Rebecca like she was dessert, and he'd been dieting for months. I drove home through empty streets, windshield wipers fighting the October storm. Our house sat dark except for the porch light Rebecca always left on. Such a thoughtful wife, making sure I could find my way home. Too bad she couldn't find her way back to our marriage. Inside, everything looked normal. Rebecca's coffee cup in the sink from this morning, her legal brief scattered across the dining table, the throw pillows she'd insisted on buying last month, the ones that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. At least someone was finally using them. I walked upstairs to our bedroom and opened her closet. Methodically, I pulled out her clothes and folded them into suitcases. 20 years of shared space, reduced to luggage. Her expensive perfume bottles lined up like soldiers on the dresser. Her jewelry box with the tiny ballerina that spun when you opened it. A gift from her mother when she graduated law school. By 4 a.m., I had 3 suitcases packed and sitting by the front door. I left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter next to her car keys, along with a note that said simply, "Keep her. She's not my problem anymore." Then I drove to Murphy's boxing gym, the only place open at that hour, besides gas stations and emergency rooms. Old Mickey Murphy had given me a key years ago when I installed his security system. "Come by anytime you need to hit something that won't hit back," he'd said. I wrapped my hands and went to work on the heavy bag. Left hook, right cross, left hook again. Each punch carried 20 years of frustration, disappointment, and rage I didn't even know I'd been carrying. The bag swayed under the assault, chains creaking in the empty gym. My knuckles were bleeding when my phone rang. Sarah, our 18-year-old daughter, home from her first semester at college. "Dad, where are you? Mom's not home and there are suitcases on the porch. What's going on?" I could hear the panic in her voice, the confusion of a kid whose world was about to shatter. Part of me wanted to protect her from this mess, to make up some story about a business trip or family emergency. But I was done lying for other people. "Your mother's with her boss," I said, unwrapping my bloody knuckles. "She won't be coming home tonight, or any other night." "What do you mean, Dad? You're scaring me." "Ask her yourself when she gets back. I'm sure she'll have a very creative explanation." I hung up and sat on the gym bench, staring at my reflection in the mirror across the room. 43 years old, graying hair, lines around my eyes from squinting at security system wiring. When had I become this tired-looking man? When had Rebecca stopped seeing me as someone worth staying faithful to? The sun was coming up when I finally drove home. Rebecca's BMW was in the driveway, engine still ticking as it cooled. She'd beaten me back, probably to do damage control before Sarah asked too many questions. I found her in the kitchen, still wearing last night's clothes, a black dress I'd complimented when she left for her emergency client meeting. She was making coffee with shaking hands, her carefully applied makeup smeared around her eyes. "David, we need to talk." "No, we don't." I walked past her to pour myself orange juice from the refrigerator. "We needed to talk about 6 months ago when you started working late every night. We needed to talk when you changed your phone password. We needed to talk when you stopped wearing your wedding ring to work." "You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're having an affair with your boss. He answered your phone at 2 a.m. while you were giggling in the background like a teenager. What exactly don't I understand?" Rebecca's face went through several expressions. Surprise, guilt, anger, then calculation. I could practically see her lawyer brain kicking in, looking for the angle that would make this my fault somehow. "It just happened," she said finally. "Marcus and I have been working closely together on the Henderson case, and feelings developed. I never meant for it to go this far." "How far has it gone, Rebecca? Are you in love with him? Are you leaving me for him? Or am I just supposed to pretend this never happened so you can keep playing house when it's convenient?" She set down her coffee cup and looked at me with something that might have been pity. "David, we've been growing apart for years. You know that. We want different things now. I'm finally making partner. I'm traveling, meeting important people. And you're still installing alarm systems and watching sports on weekends." There it was. The truth she'd been too polite to say before. I wasn't enough anymore. I wasn't successful enough, sophisticated enough, wealthy enough. I was an embarrassment to the woman who'd once promised to love me for better or worse. "So this is my fault for not being impressive enough for your new friends?" "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said." I walked to the counter and picked up her wedding ring, holding it up to catch the morning light. 20 years, Rebecca. 20 years I've been faithful to you, supported your career, raised our daughter, and this is what I get in return." "David, please. Can't we handle this like adults? I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. Maybe some counseling." Adults don't giggle in the background while their lovers answer their husbands' phone calls. Sarah appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, eyes red from crying. "Is it true, Mom? Are you cheating on Dad?" Rebecca's face crumpled. "Sweetheart, it's complicated. Adult relationships are complicated." "It's not complicated," I said, setting the ring back on the counter. "Your mother chose her career and her boss over our family. That's as simple as it gets." "Dad, don't what? Don't tell the truth? Don't be hurt that my wife of 20 years decided to upgrade to a richer model? Don't be angry that she's been lying to both of us for months?" Rebecca straightened up, and I saw a flash of the courtroom attorney she'd become. "If you're going to be vindictive about this, David, I'll have to protect myself legally. I've worked too hard to let you destroy my reputation out of spite." "Your reputation?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Lady, you destroyed your own reputation when you started sleeping with your boss. I'm just the guy who caught you." I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. "Your suitcases are on the porch. I assume Marcus has room for you at his place, since you've apparently been auditioning for the position." "Where are you going?" Sarah called after me. "To work. Some of us still have jobs that don't require sleeping with the boss." 3 days later, the whole neighborhood knew. Rebecca had moved in with Marcus Wellington, and his ex-wife Jennifer had been more than happy to share the news with anyone who would listen. Jennifer lived 2 streets over and had never gotten over her divorce settlement. She saw Rebecca as Karma's personal delivery service. I was installing a security camera at the Henderson house when my phone started buzzing with texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. Most were supportive, but a few made it clear that they'd chosen sides, and I wasn't on the winning team. "Heard about Rebecca," said Tom Bradley, my former best friend and Rebecca's current law firm colleague. "That's rough, man, but maybe it's for the best. You two seemed pretty miserable at the company picnic." Tom had called while I was drilling holes for camera mounts, and his tone had that careful neutrality people use when they're trying not to take sides but have already made their choice. Miserable? I set down my drill. We seemed miserable? Come on, Dave, you barely spoke to each other. Rebecca was networking with the partners while you sat at the kids' table complaining about the catered food. I sat with the other spouses while my wife worked the room like she was running for office. That's what supportive husbands do, Tom. Look, I'm not trying to start anything. I just think maybe this is an opportunity for both of you to find something better. Rebecca's really happy with Marcus. They make sense together professionally. There it was, the subtle knife twist disguised as friendship. Rebecca and Marcus made sense together, the implication being that Rebecca and I never did. Are you calling to check on me, Tom, or to make sure I'm not going to cause problems for your law firm? That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would be my wife having the decency to divorce me before she started sleeping with her boss. Fair would be my friends not immediately siding with the cheater because she makes more money than I do. Nobody's siding with anyone. We're all adults here. Adults don't have affairs, Tom. Children do that. Selfish, immature children who want what they want and don't care who gets hurt. I hung up and went back to work, but my hands were shaking as I mounted the camera. 20 years of friendship, gone because Tom worked with Rebecca and couldn't afford to alienate a future partner. I should have seen it coming. That evening, Sarah called from college. She'd been trying to play peacemaker, splitting her time between Rebecca's new apartment and our house, but the strain was showing. Dad, can you please just talk to Mom? She says you won't return her calls. What's to talk about? She made her choice. She wants to discuss the divorce terms. She says she'll be fair about the house and everything. I almost laughed. Fair. Rebecca's definition of fair would probably involve me being grateful for whatever scrap she decided to throw my way. Tell your mother that my lawyer will be in touch. If she wants to discuss terms, she can do it through proper channels. You hired a lawyer? I hired the best divorce attorney in the county, someone who specializes in cases involving adultery and professional misconduct. The silence on the other end told me Sarah was finally starting to understand that this wasn't going to be some amicable, conscious uncoupling. This was going to be war. Dad, please don't make this uglier than it has to be. I still have to live in this town. My friends' parents all know you and Mom. Your mother should have thought about that before she decided to have her midlife crisis in public. She's not having a midlife crisis. She's in love. She's in love with his money and his connections. If Marcus was a security system installer, you think she'd be so smitten? Sarah hung up on me, which was probably for the best. I was getting bitter, and she didn't deserve to bear the brunt of my anger. But I was tired of everyone acting like Rebecca was some romantic heroine following her heart instead of a middle-aged woman who'd blown up her family for a promotion and a richer husband. The next morning, I was having coffee at Murphy's Diner when Jennifer Wellington walked in. Marcus's ex-wife was a striking woman in her early 50s, with silver hair and the kind of confidence that comes from winning a very expensive divorce. David Carter, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I was hoping I'd run into you. Mrs. Wellington, I'm sorry about the circumstances. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me was getting away from Marcus. And please call me Jennifer. We're practically family now, aren't we? Both victims of my ex-husband's wandering eye. She signaled the waitress for coffee and leaned forward conspiratorially. I suppose you know this isn't his first affair with a subordinate. I figured as much. Rebecca's the third one I know of. The pattern is always the same. He targets ambitious women who are up for promotion, wines and dines them, promises to advance their careers, then moves on when someone younger and hungrier comes along. How long do you think this one will last? Jennifer smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. That depends on how much fight you've got in you. Marcus gets bored easily, especially when his toys come with complications. A messy divorce, angry ex-husband, daughter who hates him. That's not the sophisticated lifestyle he's trying to maintain. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes the best revenge is letting people get exactly what they asked for. Marcus thinks he's trading up with Rebecca. Let him find out what it's really like to live with someone who chose him for his money and connections. She left a $5 bill on the table and stood up. If you ever want to compare notes about Marcus's habits, give me a call. I know things about that man that would curl your hair. After she left, I sat in the diner thinking about what she'd said. I'd been so focused on Rebecca's betrayal that I hadn't really considered Marcus as anything more than the other man. But Jennifer was right. He was a predator who used his position to exploit younger women. Rebecca might think she'd won some kind of prize, but she'd actually just made herself his latest victim. That afternoon, I was installing motion sensors at a client's house when my phone rang. Rebecca's number. "David, we need to talk about the house. My lawyer says you're being unreasonable about the settlement terms." "Your lawyer can talk to my lawyer. That's what we pay them for." "This is ridiculous. We can handle this like civilized people without spending a fortune on legal fees." "Civilized people don't cheat on their spouses, Rebecca. You lost the right to ask for civilized treatment when you started sleeping with your boss. That's not fair. What happened between Marcus and me doesn't change the fact that we built a life together. I have a right to half of everything we accumulated during our marriage, including my pension, my business, the house I've been paying the mortgage on for 15 years while you were in law school. I contributed to this marriage too, David. I worked just as hard as you did. You worked hard at destroying it, I'll give you that." She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice had the cold precision I'd heard her use with hostile witnesses. "If you want to play hardball, David, I'm prepared for that. But remember, I know where all the bodies are buried. Your tax situation, your business practices, that time you got pulled over for DUI but never got charged because you knew the cop. I've been protecting you for years, but if you want to make this ugly, I can make it very ugly. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you that marriages create vulnerabilities on both sides. You might want to consider that before you decide how vindictive you want to be." She hung up, leaving me staring at my phone. The woman I'd been married to for 20 years was threatening to destroy me if I didn't roll over and let her take half of everything I'd worked for. The same woman who'd once promised to love and honor me was now talking about buried bodies and mutual destruction. That's when I realized Jennifer Wellington was right. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people get exactly what they deserve. And Rebecca deserved to find out what kind of man she'd really chosen. The first casualty of my marriage wasn't my relationship with Rebecca. It was my friendship with Tom Bradley and his wife Lisa. They'd been our closest friends for over a decade, but when forced to choose sides, they went with the future law firm partner instead of the guy who installed their security system. It started small. Invitations that stopped coming, text messages that went unanswered, the subtle social freeze-out that happens when people decide you're no longer useful to them. The breaking point came at Murphy's Diner on a Friday night. I was having dinner alone, reading the newspaper and trying to pretend I wasn't pathetic, when Tom and Lisa walked in with Marcus and Rebecca. They were laughing about something, the four of them looking like old friends enjoying a night out. Rebecca saw me first. She whispered something to Marcus, who glanced over with an expression of mild annoyance, like I was a homeless person who might ask for change. Tom had the decency to look uncomfortable, but Lisa just stared right through me like I was invisible. They took a booth on the other side of the restaurant, but the place wasn't big enough to pretend we couldn't see each other. I watched Tom lean in to say something to Marcus, probably explaining who I was. Marcus nodded and smiled, the kind of smile predators give their prey. I finished my meal and was walking out when Tom intercepted me at the door. "Dave, hey, how are you doing?" "I'm fine, Tom. Enjoying dinner with your new friends?" "Come on, man. Don't be like that. Rebecca's still Rebecca. We've known her for 10 years. You've known me for 15, but I don't see you rushing to have dinner with me." Tom looked back at his table, where Lisa was watching us with obvious disapproval. "It's complicated, okay? Lisa works with Rebecca on the charity board. We can't just cut her off because you two are having problems. Having problems? Is that what you call adultery now? Having problems? Keep your voice down. Tom glanced around nervously. Look, I know you're hurt, but Rebecca's moved on. Maybe you should think about doing the same. Moved on? It's been 2 weeks, Tom. 2 weeks since I found out my wife was cheating, and you think I should just move on? I think you should consider that maybe this is for the best. You and Rebecca wanted different things. Now you're both free to find what makes you happy. I looked at this man I'd considered my best friend, who'd been the best man at my wedding, who'd helped me move furniture when we bought our house, and I realized I was looking at a stranger. You're right, Tom. I am free. Free to find out who my real friends are. I walked out, leaving him standing in the doorway. Behind him, I could see Rebecca watching through the window, her face unreadable. Marcus had his arm around her shoulders, marking his territory. The next week brought more revelations about how quickly social circles reorganize around scandal. The couples Rebecca and I had socialized with for years suddenly found reasons to avoid me. Dinner parties I wasn't invited to. Golf games that happened without me. The gradual but unmistakable message that I was no longer welcome in the life Rebecca and I had built together. But it wasn't just about taking sides. It was about class. Rebecca's new status as Marcus Wellington's girlfriend opened doors that had been closed when she was married to a security system installer. She was invited to charity galas and country club events that we'd never had access to before. Our old friends saw an opportunity to upgrade their own social connections, and I was dead weight. The irony was that some of these people owed me favors. I'd installed security systems in their houses, often at a discount because they were friends. I'd helped Tom move his elderly mother into assisted living. I'd loaned money to couples who were struggling. But friendship, I was learning, was a luxury people could only afford when it didn't cost them anything. The breaking point came 3 weeks after Rebecca moved out. I was at Home Depot buying supplies when I ran into Steve and Carol Morrison, another couple from our old social circle. Steve had been laid off 6 months ago, and I'd recommended him for a job with one of my contractor friends. "David," Carol said with fake enthusiasm. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Carol. How's the new job working out, Steve?" Steve looked uncomfortable. "It's good. Thanks again for the referral." "We heard about you and Rebecca," Carol said, lowering her voice like she was discussing a terminal illness. "We're so sorry. These things happen. Well, we just want you to know that we're not taking sides. We care about both of you." "That's good to hear." "Actually," Steve said, "we're having a barbecue this weekend. Just a small thing, nothing fancy. You should come." For a moment, I felt a surge of gratitude. Finally, someone who wasn't writing me off. "That sounds great. What time?" Carol and Steve exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. "Well," Carol said carefully, "Rebecca and Marcus might stop by. We invited them before we knew you were coming. Would that be awkward?" There it was. They'd invited Rebecca and her boyfriend to their barbecue, then offered to include me as an afterthought, probably out of guilt. I was the consolation prize, the charity case they felt obligated to include. "You know what? I think I'll pass. Wouldn't want to make things awkward." "Are you sure? We could ask Rebecca not to come." "Don't. She's your friend too. Have a good time." I walked away, leaving them standing in the hardware aisle looking relieved. They'd made their token gesture, offered their pity invitation, and I'd let them off the hook. Everyone could feel good about themselves. That night, I sat in my empty house drinking beer and thinking about friendship. Real friendship, the kind that survives inconvenience and social pressure and choosing sides. I realized I'd been confusing proximity with loyalty, mistaking social connections for genuine relationships. My phone rang, Sarah calling from college. "Dad, I heard about the Morrisons' barbecue. I'm sorry." "How did you hear about that?" "Mom told me. She feels bad about the whole thing." "Your mother feels bad? That's rich. She does, Dad. She never wanted this to affect your friendships. Then she shouldn't have had an affair with her boss. Actions have consequences, Sarah. Your mother is learning that, and so am I. Can't you just try to get along? For my sake? It's hard enough having divorced parents without you two hating each other. We're not divorced yet, and I don't hate your mother. I just don't trust her anymore. There's a difference. What's that supposed to mean? I thought about Rebecca's threat to dig up dirt on me if I didn't cooperate with her settlement demands. I thought about how quickly she'd moved in with Marcus, how seamlessly she'd transitioned from wife to mistress to girlfriend. I thought about the calculating look in her eyes when she talked about protecting herself legally. It means your mother is looking out for herself, Sarah. She always has been. I was just too stupid to see it. After Sarah hung up, I made myself a sandwich and ate it standing at the kitchen counter, looking out at the backyard Rebecca and I had landscaped together 5 years ago. The rose bushes she'd insisted on planting were blooming, red flowers that would die with the first frost. I was learning that loneliness wasn't the worst part of divorce. The worst part was discovering how conditional most relationships really were, how quickly people could recalculate your value and find you wanting, how easily 20 years of history could be erased when it became inconvenient. But I was also learning something else. I was stronger than I'd thought, more self-sufficient, less dependent on other people's approval than I'd realized. The friends who'd abandoned me had done me a favor. They'd shown me who they really were before I wasted any more time on them. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a plan was starting to form. A way to make sure Rebecca got exactly what she deserved from her new life with Marcus Wellington. Jennifer had been right. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people get what they asked for. I just needed to make sure they got all of it. The showdown I'd been dreading finally came on a Thursday night at the Riverside Country Club. Rebecca had invited me to dinner to discuss our situation like adults, which should have been my first warning. Rebecca never did anything without an angle. I arrived at 7 sharp, wearing the only suit I owned that didn't smell like sawdust and electrical wire. The maitre d' led me through the dining room full of lawyers and doctors and investment bankers. Rebecca's people now, not mine. She was waiting at a corner table, looking polished and professional in a navy dress that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "I know this is difficult." "Cut the crap, Rebecca. What do you want?" "I want us to handle this divorce with dignity. For Sarah's sake, if nothing else." The waiter appeared with wine menus and recommendations. Rebecca ordered a bottle of something French and expensive. I asked for a beer, which earned me a look of disapproval from both Rebecca and the waiter. "David, we need to talk about the settlement. My lawyer says you're being unrealistic about the asset division." "Your lawyer can talk to my lawyer." "This is exactly what I'm talking about. We don't need to spend $50,000 on legal fees just because you're angry." "I'm not angry, Rebecca. I'm careful. There's a difference." She leaned forward, using the voice she probably used to charm juries. "We built a life together. We both contributed to our success. The house, your business, my career. We're partners in all of it." "We're partners, past tense. You ended the partnership when you started sleeping with your boss." "What happened between Marcus and me doesn't erase 20 years of marriage." "It does for me." The waiter brought our drinks. Rebecca sipped her wine while I drank beer from the bottle, probably violating some country club etiquette rule. I didn't care. I wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. "David, I'm trying to be reasonable here. I could have asked for alimony. I could have demanded half your business. I could have made this very expensive for you. But you didn't because you know what a jury would think of a cheating wife who left her husband for a richer man. Adultery still matters in divorce court, even if it doesn't matter to you." Rebecca's mask slipped for a moment, and I saw a flash of the calculating attorney underneath the concerned ex-wife act. "Fine. Let's talk about what juries think. How do you think they'd react to hearing about your gambling problem? Or the time you got arrested for bar fighting in college? Or the creative accounting you've been doing with your business taxes? Are you threatening me again? I'm reminding you that everyone has secrets, David. Everyone has things they'd rather not discuss in open court. I set down my beer and looked at this woman I'd been married to for 20 years. Really looked at her. When had she become so cold? So calculating? Or had she always been this way, and I'd just been too blind to see it? You know what, Rebecca? Go ahead. Dig up whatever dirt you want. Tell the world about my gambling problem, which consisted of losing $200 at a casino on our anniversary 3 years ago. Tell them about the bar fight I got into when I was 19. Tell them about my taxes, which have been prepared by the same accountant for 10 years and audited twice with no problems. David, but while you're destroying my reputation, I'll be telling them about your affair, about how you used company resources to conduct personal business, about how you violated the firm's ethics policies by sleeping with your supervisor, about how you lied to your husband and daughter for months while you played house with your boss. Rebecca's face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. See how far you want to push this. We sat in silence for a moment, staring at each other across the table like gunslingers in an old western. Finally, Rebecca picked up her wine glass and took a long sip. What do you want, David? I want you to honor our prenup. You keep what you brought into the marriage, I keep what I brought. We split the house proceeds 50-50 and we go our separate ways. That's not fair. I helped build your business. I supported you when you were starting out. You supported me when it was convenient, when it looked like I might be successful. The minute something better came along, you jumped ship. That's not true. Isn't it? When did you start losing interest, Rebecca? When Marcus got promoted to senior partner? When you realized he could offer you things I never could? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I want this over, I said. I want you out of my life. I want to move on and forget the last 20 years ever happened. What about Sarah? What about her? She's 18. She can have a relationship with both of us without us having to pretend we're friends. Rebecca finished her wine and signaled for another glass. You're making a mistake, David. We could be allies in this. We could help each other transition to new lives without destroying each other. We could have been a lot of things, Rebecca. We could have been faithful. We could have been honest. We could have been partners, but you chose something else. I stood up and threw a 20 on the table. Have dinner with your boyfriend. I'm sure he'll be more appreciative of the company. David, wait. But I was already walking away, past the tables full of successful people who'd probably heard every word of our conversation. Let them talk. Let them judge. I was done caring what Rebecca's world thought of me. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck for a few minutes, hands shaking from adrenaline. I'd stood up to her. I'd called her bluff. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt like I'd won a round. My phone buzzed with a text from Tom Bradley. Heard you had dinner with Rebecca. Hope you guys can work things out. I stared at the message, wondering how he'd heard about our dinner so quickly. Then I realized he was probably having drinks at the bar with Lisa, maybe with Marcus too. They'd seen me leave, seen Rebecca sitting alone at the table, and drawn their own conclusions. I deleted the text without responding. Tom had made his choice weeks ago. We weren't friends anymore, and pretending otherwise was just another lie I didn't need in my life. But as I drove home through the October darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Rebecca had shown her hand tonight. She was willing to fight dirty if she had to. And Marcus Wellington, sitting in his corner office counting his money and his conquests, probably thought he'd won some kind of prize. They had no idea what was coming. 2 months later, I was ready to execute my plan. I'd spent weeks gathering information, making connections, and positioning all the pieces on the board. Rebecca and Marcus had no idea what was about to hit them. It started with Jennifer Wellington. Marcus's ex-wife had been more than happy to share details about her former husband's business practices, his personal habits, and his pattern of behavior with female employees. She also introduced me to Amanda Chen, a former associate at Hartley and Associates who'd left the firm under mysterious circumstances 2 years earlier. Amanda and I met at a coffee shop downtown, away from the legal district where someone might recognize her. She was in her early 30s, attractive, well-dressed, and obviously still angry about whatever had happened at the firm. "Marcus Wellington destroyed my career," she said without preamble. "I was up for junior partner when he started his campaign to get me into bed. When I refused, suddenly my work wasn't good enough anymore. My cases got reassigned. My office got moved to the basement. Within 6 months, I was forced to resign." "Did you file a complaint? Against a senior partner? With what proof?" "It was all very subtle, very deniable. Marcus is good at what he does." "What about Rebecca? Did she know what was happening?" Amanda's expression hardened. "Rebecca knew exactly what was happening. She was on the ethics committee that reviewed my complaint. She voted to dismiss it for lack of evidence. So she helped cover up Marcus's harassment. She did more than that. She actively undermined me, spread rumors about my competence, questioned my commitment to the firm. She saw me as competition and used Marcus's interest in me as an opportunity to eliminate a rival. This was better than I'd hoped. Rebecca wasn't just Marcus's latest victim, she was his accomplice. She'd helped him destroy other women's careers to advance her own. "Would you be willing to go on record about this?" "What do you mean?" I pulled out a business card for Janet Morrison, the investigative reporter at the local newspaper who'd been sniffing around the law firm for months, looking for a story about workplace harassment in the legal community. "I mean, it's time Marcus Wellington faced some consequences for his behavior. And Rebecca, too." Amanda stared at the card for a long moment. "You're Rebecca's husband." "Ex-husband, almost. This is about revenge. This is about justice. How many other women has Marcus harassed? How many careers has Rebecca helped destroy? Someone needs to hold them accountable." Amanda took the card. "I'll think about it." 3 days later, she called Janet Morrison. Within a week, 2 other former female employees had come forward with similar stories. The newspaper was preparing a major exposé about sexual harassment and ethical violations at one of the city's most prestigious law firms. But that was just the opening move. While the newspaper investigation was developing, I'd been working on the financial angle. Rebecca had been careless about her personal information during our marriage, and I still had access to some of her accounts and records. Nothing illegal, just the kind of shared financial information married couples accumulate over 20 years. What I found was interesting. Rebecca had been gambling online for the past 2 years, losing significant amounts of money on poker and sports betting. She'd hidden it well, using credit cards I didn't know about and taking cash advances against her law firm salary. But the pattern was clear. She was in debt up to her eyeballs and getting deeper every month. More interesting was what I found about Marcus. His expensive lifestyle was funded by some creative accounting at the law firm. He'd been billing personal expenses to client accounts, using firm resources for his private business ventures, and generally treating the partnership like his personal piggy bank. I made copies of everything and sent them anonymously to the State Bar Association's Ethics Committee and the IRS. Let the professionals sort out what was criminal and what was just sleazy. The final piece of my revenge was the most personal. Sarah was coming home for Thanksgiving, and Rebecca had planned a big dinner to introduce her to Marcus properly. She'd invited his adult children from his previous marriages, some colleagues from the firm, and a few of their new society friends. It was going to be Rebecca's debut as Marcus's official girlfriend, her introduction to his social circle. I made sure she got exactly the introduction she deserved. The newspaper story broke on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. "Harassment and Corruption at Prestigious Law Firm" was the headline, with photos of Marcus and Rebecca prominently featured. The article detailed years of sexual harassment, ethical violations, and financial improprieties at Hartley and Associates, with specific focus on Marcus Wellington's pattern of targeting female subordinates for sexual relationships. Rebecca was portrayed not as a victim, but as an enabler who'd helped cover up complaints against Marcus while advancing her own career. The article included quotes from Amanda Chen and two other women describing how Rebecca had undermined their harassment complaints and participated in their professional destruction. By Wednesday morning, the State Bar Association had opened an investigation. The law firm's managing partners had called an emergency meeting, and Rebecca's carefully planned Thanksgiving dinner had turned into a disaster. I was installing a security system at a client's house when Sarah called, crying. "Dad, what did you do?" "I don't know what you mean." "The newspaper story. Everyone's talking about it. Mom's career is ruined. They're saying she might be disbarred. Your mother made her own choices, Sarah. I just made sure people knew about them. This is about revenge, isn't it? You couldn't stand that she was happy with Marcus, so you destroyed her life. I couldn't stand that she was helping a predator destroy other women's lives while she climbed the corporate ladder. There's a difference. She's my mother. And she's also a woman who chose to protect a sexual harasser because it was good for her career. How do you think Amanda Chen's mother feels, or the other women Marcus victimized while your mother helped cover it up?" Sarah hung up on me, but I wasn't finished. That afternoon, I drove to the country club where Rebecca and Marcus were supposed to be having their Thanksgiving celebration. I wanted to see the aftermath of my handiwork. I found them in the bar, sitting alone at a corner table. Marcus looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 days. His expensive suit couldn't hide the fact that he was a broken man, facing the end of his career and possibly criminal charges. Rebecca looked worse. Her carefully maintained composure had cracked, and she was drinking wine with the desperation of someone trying to numb unbearable pain. They saw me walk in, and the look on Rebecca's face was worth every sleepless night I'd spent planning this moment. Pure hatred, mixed with the dawning realization that she'd underestimated the man she'd betrayed. I walked over to their table and sat down uninvited. "How's the happy couple doing?" "You bastard," Rebecca whispered. "You destroyed everything." "I didn't destroy anything. I just made sure people knew who you really were." Marcus tried to summon some of his old arrogance. "You have no idea what you've done, Carter. When this blows over..." "It's not going to blow over. The State Bar Association doesn't ignore this kind of evidence. Neither does the IRS. You're finished, Marcus. Both of you." "The IRS?" Rebecca's face went white. "What are you talking about?" "Your gambling debts. Marcus's creative accounting. Did you really think nobody would notice? Did you think you were too smart to get caught?" I stood up and looked down at them. The woman who'd betrayed me and the man who'd helped her do it. They looked small and pathetic, like children who'd been caught stealing and couldn't understand why they were in trouble. "You wanted to upgrade your lives," I said. "Congratulations. You got exactly what you deserved." I walked out of the country club and drove home to my empty house, where I opened a beer and watched the sunset through the kitchen window. For the first time in months, I felt at peace. Rebecca and Marcus had destroyed my marriage, my social life, and my faith in friendship. But they'd also freed me from a life that was built on lies and compromises. Tomorrow I would start rebuilding, this time with my eyes wide open. But tonight, I was going to enjoy the fact that justice, however delayed, had finally been served. My phone rang. Jennifer Wellington. "I saw the news," she said. "Congratulations. It's not over yet. The investigations are just getting started." "Oh, it's over for Marcus. The firm's insurance company won't cover him for criminal activity. His legal bills alone will bankrupt him. And Rebecca..." She laughed. "Rebecca's about to learn what it's like to be married to a man who's lost everything." "They're not married." "Give it time. She's invested too much in him to walk away now. She'll stick with him right up until the moment he drags her down with him." After Jennifer hung up, I sat in my quiet house and thought about the future. Sarah would forgive me eventually, when she was old enough to understand that sometimes doing the right thing requires hurting people you love. I'd find new friends, real ones this time. I'd rebuild my business and my life without the weight of other people's expectations and judgments. And Rebecca? Rebecca would get exactly what she'd chosen, a life with Marcus Wellington, for better or worse. Mostly worse, as it turned out. Sometimes the best revenge really is letting people get what they ask for.